welcome to Just Start, Get Visible, your go-to resource on the journey to becoming more visible in a way that feels right for you. Hey there, and welcome back to yet another episode of Just Start, Get Visible. Let's get to work. We are now on episode number 243. It's been quite the journey on this podcast, and it's quite a pleasure to come here with you with a level of regularity to inspire you to start the things that you want to do and to get visible in a way that feels right for you. And as we kick off this year, ending, of course, last year, which was an interesting year in every possible way, and I'm sure that every one of us could say that. It is nice to be back with you and to provide you with the tools and the tips and the storytelling and all the things that you need to help you start the things that you want to do and get visible and to do it in a bit more of a relaxed format. If you are a regular frequenter of the Just Start podcast, you know that typically we have a little bit of a different background, but we're coming to you with some different energy this year. And it's because different energy is what's required for lots of people, including me. And so I'm going to still provide you with the same level of deep value that we always give you in a very quick way, because we also want to make sure that we're respectful of our learning behaviors and our attention to detail, and more importantly, our attention span. So we're always going to give you meaningful things to take to put into action, but I'm always going to be mindful that you have other things going on, and I want to give it to you in a way where you can actually take meaningful action. Today's episode is about momentum. We're going to talk about why momentum is maybe not on your side, but more importantly, why waiting to get started is costing you momentum. Sometimes we are waiting for the right sign from whatever to start the things that we truly want to do, when in fact, the world, our circle, our customers, our members, our community is waiting on us. So let's talk about why waiting is costing you momentum. I often think about some conversations that I have with my husband and other people in my family that may say, hey, I'm going to start this next week. I'm going to start this next month. I'm going to start this next year. And my rebuttal back is usually something to the effect of, why don't you just start it now? Why don't you just make or take one small action to put you on the path of the thing that is your goal or the thing that you're reaching or striving for? So let's dive into the world of why waiting is actually costing you momentum. First, I encourage you to embrace a bit of a reframe. We talk about reframing quite a bit in the Scarlet world. Of course, I'm the founder and principal consultant of a company called Scarlet, where we help leaders become better leaders and we empower people to be more confident using etiquette training as well. We talk quite a bit about our power of reframing, or the power that we have to reframe, particularly in our leadership courses. And I want to encourage you to think about your reframing opportunity as it relates to starting and getting visible. I want you to reframe your readiness as more of a decision than it is a feeling. You ever hear people say, I was never ready to have kids, I just had them, or I was never ready to do X, it just happened. This is the same analogy that I want you to use as you're thinking about the things that you want to start this year. And when I say the things you want to start, remember that that could be many. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're starting a business. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're starting an empire. Maybe you are simply, and maybe even not so simply. I hate to say the word simple as if anything that you choose to start is simple or less important than someone else's thing to start. Maybe your desire in starting is that I want to use my voice a bit more in the workplace. And that's what's important for you. That's what you know you need to do. And perhaps you recognize that maybe that's holding you back. And so instead of saying, you know what, when I'm ready to do this, when I feel super prepared to do this, I want you to reframe your readiness as a decision and not a feeling, because you might not ever feel ready to do anything. I am usually the first one to raise my hand and be open and honest and say that usually 50% or more of the things that I do, I don't feel ready for them. I have them tied to other things in my life, values, purpose, life thesis, and I know that doing these things will help me to fulfill those other things much better, much quicker in a way that feels good to me. And so it's more of a decision than it is a feeling. So, first piece of homework, and I ask you to embrace today is what are the things that you keep waiting on the right feeling for instead of just deciding? I often have a phrase that proves to be true in almost every condition in my life, and so do other people who take advantage of coaching opportunities with Scarlett. And it is that so many of your questions get answered in the action. But if you're not taking any action, if you're not making any movement, then your questions are still remaining unanswered. So, first thing I want you to do is to think about, is it time for me to reframe my readiness as a decision and less of a feeling? Because maybe I might not ever feel ready, but by taking action, perhaps I get more ready. And then that feeling of discomfort slowly starts to dissipate more and more and more. Okay. There also might be, as a number two here, there also might be a story that you're telling yourself. What is the story that you're telling yourself to justify your waiting? Is it when this exact thing happens? Is it when I get this specific sign? Is it, oh, I know that that can't be successful because X? But the question is, do you really know that? Or is that a story that you're just telling yourself? So when you think to yourself, hey, I'm not ready to do this, it doesn't feel right, right? Because of XYZ, what is that story? What is that story that you keep telling yourself? And I want you to push back and ask yourself, is that story true? Is that a story that I keep telling myself that maybe used to be true? That perhaps my amygdala, that thing in our brain that senses change and discomfort and fear, that it's making me feel uncomfortable. But is the story really true? Right. So what's the story that you're telling yourself to justify the waiting, and question that story? Question the validity and the truthfulness of that story. I want to present to you a fact, less of a question on this one, and a fact that I want you to embrace. And it is that momentum compounds once you start, and particularly once you start showing up. A lot of times I will get feedback, or someone will tell me, hey, I received this email from you, I received this message from you, and oh, you're in my inbox a lot, or you're on my LinkedIn a lot. And what's very interesting about those types of statements is that I actually feel like I don't show up enough in those spaces, on in your email box or on your timeline, particularly on LinkedIn, which is where I spend a substantial amount of my professional time. But what's interesting about that is the reason why a lot of people probably feel that way is because it's compounded activity. A compounded activity where, because they saw me in email and because they saw me on LinkedIn, or because they saw me on LinkedIn last week and the week before and the week before, maybe just one time each of those weeks, it feels like I'm showing up in their life a lot. But on my end, it actually doesn't feel that way at all. It's literally just consistency and compounded activities where people keep hearing from you over and over and over again. And then it feels like a lot, but it's just compounded. It's just like compound interest. When you put in money and over time, it actually, your money works a lot faster and a lot more effective for you because it's compounding. So for us, it's a bit of compounding messaging, it's a bit of consistency, and it's a bit of deciding to show up. Put one foot in front of the other each and every day to eventually take advantage of that compound energy, those compounded results, that compounded activity, and what it often feels like to other people, compounded impact. So I'm challenging you to show up. Momentum compounds things. However, your momentum can't start going until you get on the wheel and you actually have some movement. So just start. Okay. The fourth thing I want you to keep in mind is imperfections. Raise your hand virtually if you're someone who tends to not want to get started, or you get stalled out because the perfection monster keeps knocking at your door. Oh, it's not exactly right. Oh, what about this? Oh, I'm nitpicking this and nitpicking that, to the point that you just don't do anything. Or perhaps you do the thing and you don't even release it. You don't even post it. You don't even share it because it doesn't feel perfect. And here is the honest truth about perfection. Okay. Imperfect actions, the ones that aren't great, the ones, not, I wouldn't say the ones that aren't great, but the ones that aren't perfect, the ones that aren't pristine, the ones that don't have the perfect bow on them, they build confidence faster than perfection. Because once you give yourself permission to take action, even if you feel like, oh, that could have been done at 100%, that could have been done at 90%, that could have been done at 80%. Imperfect actions are movement, they're activity. They prove to you, I can do this. And I can do this, maybe not even at 1000%, which is what you think you should be doing something at. And so the question I have for you is, what is the imperfect thing that you can do to prove to yourself that I can move in the right direction? I can start this path of starting the things that I want to do because that helps me to build up my confidence. Think about anyone who you admire who has some type of visibility or some type of presence. Think about the quality of the things that they were producing 20, 30, 5, 7 years ago, even 6 months ago. Those same people would probably cringe at those things. However, because they did those things, now fast forward 6 months, 1 year, 3 months, 66 months, 26 years, fast forward any amount of time, and those things help them to build up their confidence so that their compounded actions have now made them better, more confident, and showing up in ways that they feel proud about because they had that practice in, right? Imperfect actions, honestly, there's an opportunity for you to reframe that as simply just practice, right? And yes, some of the things that you might do could possibly be cringe. It's very possible, but you don't get better at things until you practice them. Still to this day, you know what I still do? I still practice. People are often really surprised after keynoting hundreds of things, after speaking all across the country and beyond. I still practice because I still look at that as imperfect actions that help me get better and better over time. So, what is the thing that you keep waiting on, that you keep saying, because I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all? Imperfect actions build confidence. And sometimes they build confidence more than planning. And this is coming from someone who is a planner. I'm a planner through and through, used to be a wedding and event producer, so I believe in planning stuff out. However, at the same time, I'm also someone who believes that action is much better than no action. Okay. Action is much better than no action. And while we're up here on the subject of perfection, why don't I drop this last tip on you that I want you to embrace and noodle on? And it's the fact that perfection delays momentum more than lack of skill. So perhaps you're thinking, you know what? I'm not ready to start on this thing because I don't know how to do X perfectly, right? But I bet you, if you think about this thing that you want to start, and it could be whatever, photography, calligraphy, it could be being a better public speaker. It could be a litany of any of the things that you want to start. There are so many pockets of things that you could tap into, start to work on the path of working on that thing, that your delaying is keeping you from making any progress whatsoever. And so, yes, the thing is the thing, whatever the thing is. There are lots of skills that each and every one of us can acquire to get better, or to work towards achieving whatever it is that we want to achieve or starting anything that we want to start. However, there are so many other things that you could work on that would help you get there faster. All right. So perhaps you're thinking, you know what, I want to be on more stages this year. That's something that I want to do. And when you think about being on more stages and using your voice in whatever capacity you're thinking about, there are so many different things that you can work on before you actually achieve that thing. Your tone, your diction, your timing, the types of organizations that you could speak at, you deciding what your price structure is, you just flat out practicing and creating your signature talk. Instead of saying, you know what, I'm not going to do anything because I don't have a connection with the organizations that I want to speak with. Well, what about all these other things that you need to get done on the path of working towards that? Perhaps you're like, you know what, I want to start a photography business. And you might be thinking, you know what, I don't have any clients. Well, what are all the other things that you need to do before the clients show up, right? Or before you get your first contract, right? Or even your first interest email. There are all these other things that you could be doing on the path to get there. But if you're waiting for this one particular piece, you might just be waiting and waiting and waiting unnecessarily. So know that perfection, it delays momentum and it delays it way more than a deficit in a skill. So instead, give yourself permission to start moving in the direction of the thing that you want to be in by identifying several things that you could be working on and work on what you can work on at any given time. Let's quickly recap. All right. The first thing I want you to keep in mind is that reframing your readiness as a decision versus a feeling is in your best interest. Lots of things we won't be ready for. The question is, do we believe that the thing that we want to go after is important enough for us to decide I'm going after it versus feeling like or waiting for the right feeling to say that I'm ready to go after it? The second is I want you to identify the story. What is the story that you're telling yourself that's making you stay in a waiting and holding pattern? Because we all have stories. Some of us have one, some of us have five, some of us have 20 different stories that keeps driving us to the decision of inaction. And so, what is that story? Beat that story up. Is that story true? Is that story old news? And is that story worthy enough from keeping you from starting the things that you really want to do? Know that momentum compounds once you start showing up. One domino, the next domino, the next domino, the next domino. But the question is, have you forced the first domino to fall? So momentum compounds if you allow it to compound. There's also a hidden cost that we're not keeping in mind here. There are hidden costs that are truly a factor of your missed opportunities. When you hide out, when you don't raise your hand, when you don't show up and say, hey, I am interested in this space, I am in this space, I am curious about being impactful in this space, you just make yourself visible. When you don't do that, guess what you miss out on? You miss out on your network and the tens to hundreds to thousands of people that are around you every day that will be willing to support you, to let you know about opportunities, to send opportunities your way, to let other people know that you're interested in stuff. Those things you're all missing out on because you're not making yourself visible. So there are hidden risks and hidden issues related to you not giving yourself permission to get visible. There are missed opportunities that will never see the light of day because you didn't pull yourself forward and say, hey, what about me? I'm interested in this space. So I want you to consider those hidden risks, those hidden opportunities, those missed opportunities simply by you deciding to not become visible. Also, remember the hidden costs to not being visible and how your decisions to hide out are keeping other people from supporting you. So, is it time for you to give yourself permission to be visible so that you're not missing out on these opportunities and your network that sometimes is more than willing to support you? And last, I want you to remember that perfection delays momentum way more than skill does. Waiting for things to be perfect, waiting for the perfect bow to go on things. You could have been identifying all these other pockets of things and areas that exist where you could be taking advantage of momentum, taking advantage of action, taking advantage of your network and people that are willing to support you simply by saying, you know what, it doesn't have to be perfect, but some progress is better than no progress at all. Listen, wherever you're at in the world, I certainly hope that you're safe, you're healthy, and you're well. And of course, I hope that you're giving yourself permission to just start and get visible in a way that feels right for you. I'm looking forward to continuing to join you each and every week. Our episode release dates are still Tuesdays, and we're still excited to be in your inbox and on your screens to inspire you to start the things that you want to do and get visible in a way that feels right for you. I look forward to seeing you again soon. You take care of yourself and ciao.